Entrepreneurs Enigma is a podcast for the ups and downs of entrepreneurship, so the wins and the fails that we all face being entrepreneurs, and how we learn from adversity. Every week I talk to a different entrepreneur with a story to tell. I'm Seth Goldstein. Come with me on the journey. This is Entrepreneurs Enigma. Let's get started. Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of the Entrepreneurs Enigma podcast. I am, as always, your host, Seth. Today I have a good buddy of mine, Geoff Livingston. He is in the nation's capital, or just outside by about, 3/4 of a mile or something like that?
Yeah, stone's throw, basically.
Stone's throw in Alexandria, Virginia. Geoff is one of the OGs of social media, of digital marketing. He wrote 3 books on the topic. He has worked with brands like Yum Brands, Procter & Gamble, Google, PayPal, Pepsi, blah, 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 blah. We keep going. A lot of them dealt with all the BS of corporate America. He's done his own thing a few times, so he is experienced. He has recently escaped corporate America again, this time with a more of an AI slant.
Right.
And Geoff is the founder of Generative Buzz. And he also is the co-host with
Dino, other bald guy.
Yeah, the other bald guy. There's the 2 bald guys. I'm close to it there anyhow. But he is the co-host of, what's the name of your podcast again?
The No Brainer Podcast.
The No Brainer Podcast. There we go. And it's all about AI, and they're kind of learning it as they go. And it's fun. They're also on the NPN network as well, which is fun. I think I got you guys on the network actually, even though you knew Jason, but
we do owe you for that, actually. Thank you, Seth.
Yeah, I don't even think Jason remembers. The old man remembers that I referred you guys.
Does that mean I'm buying when you're in Alexandria next?
Oh yeah, you're buying drinks. I got you on the podcast.
All right.
We'll figure it out. So Geoff, how's it going? How's the weather down? I always ask people. I always ask, how's the weather down in Alexandria right now?
It's humid as all heck. I did a run this morning.
Swamp.
Yeah, it is a swamp. It's disgusting. I miss Philly a lot sometimes, even though it's been about 30 years, but it's just sticky here. It's miserable in July and for the first part of August. I'm looking forward to September.
Yeah, I'm coming down. This is not going to air until October, but at least right now when we're recording, it is sticky in Philly too. I'm missing much.
Very cool. Very cool.
So Geoff, you went to the American University. I like how they put "the" in front to screw you up. But
obviously, a marketer didn't write that one.
I know. Then you went to Georgetown.
Yeah.
And so you went for literature at American. You got out and realized, wait, what am I going to do with this?
Pretty much, right?
I did. My whole thing was I did history and journalism with minors in anthropology and political science.
It's true.
You get out. What are they going to do with that besides be a journalist
or a lawyer? Right.
Or a lawyer.
That's it.
Or a history teacher.
Exactly.
So then you went back and got a grown-up degree at Georgetown. What's that?
Yeah. I said nobody wants to be an English teacher. No offense to English teachers, but yeah.
No. Exactly.
Especially when you write like I do. I mean, it's just horrid. It's bad.
No, that's what AI is for. It gets you started now. But that's the thing about AI. Let's talk about a little bit about that. So how did you find your way? How did you trip and fall into AI?
So that's a good question. I actually started writing about it in 2018. I really kind of thought it was going to dominate. I wrote a failed book. I made a big to-do about it. There's a lesson in that. The book was all about these different types of AI that would impact marketing. It was called Welcome to the Machine.
Ooh.
And the reason why I never published the book was when I finished writing it, I realized it was just categories of types of AI, and it was basically something you could do in the HubSpot chart, like that stack chart. And I'm like, there's really not a lot of value in this, and
you should revisit it now. There's a lot of value in it now.
In some ways, I'm still kind of circling on the book and the value as a marketing vehicle, only in the sense that having written a few of them, and I know that it's a very popular tactic to get speaking opportunities and all that, but unless there's a great idea I'm trying to disseminate to the market, I want to be thoughtful about this next business book if I choose to do one. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I get it. I think I have all 3 of your books up here somewhere.
I'm so sorry.
They're good. They're good. You're self-deprecating. I love it.
Yeah.
So so you've done the corporate world a bunch of
Yeah.
times. You've done also, if you look at your LinkedIn, you've done the entrepreneur journey a bunch of times.
Correct.
And you're not that old. So there you go.
Well, that's good shave. We'll do that for you. Get
Because
some
she will do
gray
that for
hair
you
going.
all the time, buddy. Exactly. But so what's the difference to you? Like I know there's benefits to being in the cogs, in the wheels of things, and then there's benefits of being an entrepreneur. But like you've done it, you've gone in, you've gone out, you've gone in, you've gone out.
Yeah.
Like, what's that experience like? Like,
Well, for the past 7 years, I've been largely in. I had a consultancy in the middle of that, but I was a full-time contractor of the United States Postal Service for two and a
ooh,
half years during that. So that's a
not delivering
600,000
mail.
person
Yeah,
enterprise, right?
yeah.
And the world's oldest or the country's oldest bureaucracy.
Oh,
Was
got it.
CMO of a startup, and I was also vice president of marketing communications at an
Sure.
AI company
Oh,
for a
so that's how
couple of
you kind of
years.
get back. That's how you kind of tripped and fell into it.
Yeah. I got a lot more knowledge being inside. And then when the whole generative kind of wave started hitting, I think for me, I know everybody says Chat GPT, but when Dolly and Midjourney really
Mhm.
started to pop the imagery, I'm like, okay, this stuff's getting tangible now.
Yeah,
And
because
then,
you're also a really good photographer. If anyone knows Jeff, he's not too shabby.
thank you, sir.
He takes really good freaking photos.
Love
I'm talking
photography.
about like these things should be in like the Smithsonian. These are like really good freaking photos because you take your time on them. They're not just like, oh, snapshot. I mean, you
Yeah.
also have good subjects. You have DC as a good snapshot. So there's a lot of characters walking around. You got the monuments. So it's kind of like you're on a new Rome of sorts. We're going to take a quick break, hear from our sponsors, and get right back to the show.
I've been lucky too. And I've actually, when I had my social media boutique, I had people calling me like, hey, we want to hire you. And I'd say, great, let's get started. What do you want to do? You want to be on Twitter? Like, is that where your audience is? No, we want to hire you to do photography. And I got hired by like Audi USA and the National Park Foundation
That's
to go
wild.
shoot for them. I mean, like really awesome stuff.
So your hobby turned into a business a little bit there.
A little bit, but you know what I learned about photography, Seth, is it's not the most profitable business. So I
It's not
decided to
business.
return it to its place as hobby. And when people come to me, I say, thanks, that's very generous of you. I'd like to refer you.
Exactly. Unless it's something really special. But
If you're outie and you want to take me to Africa again, I'm down with it.
they took you to Africa?
They took me to Africa, man.
That's pretty wild for being a
I,
hobbyist.
I
I'll be a really good hobbyist, but like still,
they had me photograph a carbon offset program.
that's kind of cool.
It
So
was
kind of, but you did the visuals.
photojournalism. Yes, exactly.
That's fun. Oh, I love
Yeah.
that. So you have had the benefit of being in-house. Well, instead of calling it a cog, being in-house and absorbing stuff while there. But what do you like better? In-house. Obviously, I think you like being a founder more because you're a founder again. So
Yeah. I'd say I'd like both. I mean, one of the things that being inside a larger enterprise
Mhm.
is it teaches you process and scalability, which I
Mhm.
think as an entrepreneur I struggled with.
We
And
all do.
this particular entity, I'm much more focused on it. Like this is not going to be a solopreneur organization, or it's just not going to exist. And like
Yeah, you
it's
can do it
already
all on
more
your
than
own. Yeah.
one. And so scaling is huge. But that being said, one of the problems that I see with enterprises is that process becomes permanence.
Yes, they get stuck in their ways.
And then when you run up against that, it's really hard to be an entrepreneur and evolve things if you don't have leadership above you that's willing to um, be agile
And
and
let you do
grow.
your thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I feel what this really allowed me to do, and I think for me, the last company, eValueServe, was fantastic. I really got to see some large scale AI projects
Yeah.
with some of the world's largest banks, some of the world's largest Fortune 500 companies.
Yeah.
So, like a lot of the stuff that I see with AI right now, and people are talking about, I'm like, man, you're talking on a prosumer level about ChatGPT or using Jasper or Writer, when in actuality, this thing can really blow your
Yeah.
entire marketing stack up and out so that you're generating like 60, 70% more leads. So, for me, I'm
Yeah.
much more excited about the enterprise
Just a
opportunity that
little bit.
generative AI brings,
Just a little excited.
Yeah.
You saw his face, everybody. Well, if you're watching the video, you saw his face. He got very excited about that.
Yeah. I mean, so for me, I'm animated about it because understand what it could do on a larger scale. Right. And I think
Yeah.
people aren't grasping that yet. So I
Yeah,
have an
are
education
you
job at.
scared that it's gonna take over? It's gonna take over the world.
I mean, anybody that says that to me, I kind of like, have you used these things yet?
I
Because
mean, yeah, they're pretty. I mean, they can't
yeah,
do hands. They can't do hands yet.
no, they can't do hands, and the writing is often, if you know how to write, if you're a real writer, I think that you'll find it to be
It's a good
wanting.
starting point. It's a good
It,
start. I have to agree. It is a good that it's not there yet.
yeah,
And I don't think it'll ever necessarily be there, but it's a great rough draft. Like if you have an idea, throw in a paragraph or two of your idea, and it'll spit something out that
right,
is reasonably decent to then go back and with a fine tooth comb and edit.
exactly. And it's also really good. Actually, I feel what the writing side of it's very good at is if you have good training data.
Yeah.
Some people call that prompting. It depends on like the scale you're using it. But if you have a set of content or a set of messages that you're using to prompt the engine, it
Yeah.
actually does a pretty good job of spitting it back out. And then you could, as you say, tweak it.
Massage it a little bit. Yeah.
But for versioning and creating different iterations of the same communication, which I hate doing, I just like writing the original concept and
Yeah.
then let's iterate it with an engine.
Yeah.
You know,
What I found is it's really great if they spell your name Jeff with a J the wrong way. And then I have to throw it in ChatGPT and say, change this to Geoff
well,
everywhere else.
what's your favorite AI use so far?
I love I'm loving Castmagic.io. It's the I got it on AppSumo for a little bit there. So it was like I think I spent $100 on it one time. I have it for life and all that stuff. It's great for text. It actually spells people's names right, companies' names right. It's really good. But I also use Momento for the video because they're a sponsor
Mhm.
of Market Podcast Network. So
Love Momento. Yeah.
Momento is great for what it does. Their AI text is not that good. Matthew, the AI kind of sucks,
Yeah.
but I don't use them for the text. I use them for the video aspect because they pull out really good clips. So between that and Castmagic, I can put them together and I have a nice little package there.
Nice. Nice.
It works nicely.
What's your biggest hate with AI so far?
Oh, who's flipping the channels on me here, buddy?
Hey,
Biggest
man.
hate
So you
is
can
that
see this is what happens when a podcast host meets podcast host.
exactly, buddy. The biggest hate is that it doesn't know how to use contractions. It doesn't write like me.
Wow. There you go.
It writes too proper. And so I go in there and
Yeah.
change it. So I'm like, just use a contraction for crying out loud.
ChatGPT without the personalization, you could tell a bunch of kids from Stanford wrote that thing. Man,
It's
it's
very
just
proper.
way too windy.
It is very
Yeah.
windy. And also, if you ask the flower something up, it really flowers up your bio. Like I did one, it called me an ink stained journalist. I was like, whoa,
Ooh.
fancy. I'm like, so when I go on other people's podcasts, I send them that one. I say, here's the over the top AI written one. Here's mine. Pick it.
You know what my biggest hate is with AI
What's the
right now?
biggest hate?
Too many point solutions, man. Too many of these little tools popping up, none of them working well within the existing systems that we can,
Yeah,
you know,
and they're all expensive.
easily
Yeah.
navigate through, right? It's just not intuitive yet. Like these
Yeah.
guys are,
Mhm.
they're just like these kids creating these tools or these
Yeah.
entrepreneurs, and hey, we have this great tool. Here's our use case, and it's like
Not yet.
that's not my use case.
No, no, exactly.
My use case is in HubSpot, and you're not helping me.
I'm not helping Jeff, exactly. So what is the best thing about being an entrepreneur in your mind? Because you've done the entrepreneur, you've done the entrepreneur. I always say extrapreneur for some reason, but you've done both. What's the best thing about being an entrepreneur?
Freedom.
Yeah, it has to be, yeah.
Freedom to focus on what matters. I'm at a point in my career where I pretty much, think I know. I may be wrong, but I think I know. And when I'm wrong, I'm pretty quick on self-correcting. It's pretty clear to me. I listen to feedback from the
Yeah.
market, from my colleagues. They tell me, like I have a co-founder, Josh. He'll tell me like sometimes, hey man, this isn't really jiving. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's good to know. And
Let's adjust. Let's redo the prompt.
exactly. But for me, that freedom is really important because I don't really, I guess the best way is if I don't see a strategy or if I don't believe in a strategy,
Mhm.
it's really hard for me to walk through it month after month,
Yeah.
year after year.
Yeah, following a strategy that doesn't jive is not a good thing. So
Mhm.
what's the scariest thing? What keeps you up at night with being an entrepreneur?
Scariest thing's always revenue, right? Like to me, it's always revenue. And I think one of the things that I think by the time this comes out, it'll probably be out there, but we're starting to look at product pretty heavily.
Ooh,
Um, and that matters to me a little bit in the sense that when you look at a service offering, which most of
yeah,
us are, most
yeah.
entrepreneurs are, particularly within consultancies and solopreneurs,
Mm-hmm.
it's really hard to sit back, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
it's really hard to let it go because if you do, then your pipeline dies.
Yeah.
You can't really stop or pause, right? You
No.
always have to be selling,
Mm-hmm.
always be generating pipeline. Now, I like selling. I like
You're
working with
personable. You're
people.
personable. Yeah.
I like helping people out. So when I believe in my product or my solution, it's easy, right?
Yeah.
I really do believe I'm helping you, and it's a tragedy when it doesn't work out. And it happens to every successful business. You
Yeah,
find
you're never an overnight success. You're
you,
a 15-year. I always say this. You're a 15-year overnight success.
and you need to make it right too. Like that's also my experience is you have to make it right with people. But building product at least allows us to get into something where if there's a need for it and people want it, then they're not going
Yeah.
to have to work with us on a services level. And I think that's
And
going
they
to be
still can,
interesting.
but it's different. Yeah. I mean, they can do
Exactly.
that, but they also have a product, so there's something that's always coming. So there's residuals coming in.
But it's always pipeline. I mean, and the reality is even if you're doing really well in your short-term pipeline, you probably have a long-term pipeline problem. And that's why you see a lot of entrepreneurs talk about peaks and valleys. Well, I don't
Ebbs and
like
flows,
peaks and
yeah.
valleys. I like
Oh,
straight growth.
there you go. That's the way to be. That's the way to be. So what is the most important thing to carry with you all the time
Pen
besides
and
the
paper.
camera? What's
Pen and
that?
paper.
Pen and paper? Yeah.
Mhm.
Not a camera?
I usually have a camera with me. But that's more for my personal creative joy. For business, it's definitely pen and paper. I can write
Wow.
notes on a computer, but it just doesn't help me.
Yeah, I have a remarkable that I bring everywhere.
Yeah, I used to use Moleskines, but now I use, I guess, their Lectern
Ooh,
books.
you've gone fancy, you've gone
Uh,
German.
and a pen, and that's all I need. And I remember everything if I write it down that way.
And you never have to look at the best part about writing something down, like handwriting it down, you never look at it again.
No, but you don't
Very
need to.
infrequently do you look back at it unless you really have a senior moment, which we're getting there, where we're having moments where we have to go back and look at our notes. That's not that like when we were in our 20s in college, where we wrote something down by hand, we remembered it.
Right.
It's failing a little bit. But
I do find myself checking the notes though, particularly with when I get into that proposal stage. I
oh
do
yeah, you
like to
have
go
to.
back. Yeah, I
You
do like
have to.
going
If you
back.
don't, you're gonna screw something up. Something's gonna be left out, and they're gonna catch you and say, "Well, what about this?" You're like, "Shoot, I meant to put that in there."
And if you think going back to the sales conversation again, what's the fastest way to disrespect one of your prospects? At least in their mind, he's
Yeah.
not listening to me. He didn't
Mhm.
listen to me.
Or
They're
yeah, he
gone.
missed it. Yeah, because if he would listen to me, he would have put this in the proposal.
100%.
Oh my god, that's great. So where can people find you online? Let's see. We'll start off with photos. Where can they find your photos online?
Flickr and Instagram.
There. Oh, Flickr. Oh, you're an old hat.
Old school.
Flickr's getting pretty good now. They've escaped the clutches of Verizon and Yahoo and whatever the hell they were before that.
Exactly. They've done a really nice job of actually staying relevant. And what they did was they decided not to use an algorithm. They just show people the pictures of the people that they follow in order of posting. Like, oh my
It's
God,
simple. Keep it
what a
simple.
novel idea.
Whoa, what a concept! No algorithm. Exactly. Like
Right.
Mastodon. And
Yeah.
then where can they find you? Generativebuzz.com.
LinkedIn.
LinkedIn. You're big
Also,
on
we got
LinkedIn.
TikTok. We are out there.
Ooh, you're brave. You're on TikTok.
We're
What's
on
your kid think
TikTok.
about that?
I'm sorry.
What's your kid think about you being on TikTok? The
You
old
know,
man.
I think it's fun. To me, people are searching for stuff on TikTok, and there's actually a conversation about AI there.
There
So
is, and the whole big. There's something called entrepreneur talk.
it's,
There,
it's
it's
not
big.
surprising. It's
It's
not
surprising.
surprising.
Yeah, exactly.
And
And then,
to me,
yeah.
Twitter is dead. So I'm not
Oh,
wait, X, the artist formerly known as Twitter,
yeah.
it's dead. Threads is dead, and I don't want to have
Oh,
anything
you
to
don't even
do
like
with Facebook.
Threads.
I mean, maybe it'll take off. I don't know.
I think it'll take off when they federate with Mastodon. I think there's a community on Mastodon, and I think that when they federate, brands will be on Threads, And people who don't want to be on Threads but still want to see what Taco Bell's up to can be over on their Mastodon instance, away from Facebook, but still kind of dabble.
Right. Makes
I'm
sense.
intrigued by that. If they will federate, like, Adam Mazzari says he's going to do, that's great. Of course, the Mastodon's like, no, stay off our lawn. So I'm like, guys, let's see what happens first.
Well, we'll see what happens when Meta writes the check.
I know, seriously. We'll see. So, Geoff, this has been so much fun. I'm so glad to catch up with you, buddy.
Yeah, man. Great. We'll have to have you on the other pod, man.
Ooh,
too good to jam, and I'm looking forward to breaking bread with you next time you're in the District of Corruption.
The swamp.
The swamp.
All right, this has been great, and we'll see everyone next time.
Thank you.
That was a great show. If you're enjoying Entrepreneurs Enigma, please review us in the podcast directory of your choice. Every review helps other podcast listeners find our show. If you're looking for other podcasts in the marketing space, look no further than the Marketing Podcast Network at marketingpodcasts.net. Goldstein Media hopes you have enjoyed this episode. This podcast is one of the many great shows on the MPN Marketing Podcast Network.